This is Spilled Soup Part 2. When we last saw Trixie and Steggy, they were scared, shaking, because they had just seen the first sign of giant flying insects. Now, you might not think if you were a Stegosaurus or a Tyrannosaurus that anything could possibly scare you. But remember, these guys were Stegosaurus, Tyrannosaurus boys. They were not the same as their giant parents. And they were looking up at the equivalent of fast flying, mean looking elephants. And they were dive bombing at them and they were coming close. And these big antennae that they had, they were like, wow, they could have just been knives and cut into them. What was worse for Trixie and Stiggy was that they looked up and they were going to ask Q to help, but Q, he was out of there like a shot. He's no dummy, said Trixie, but wow, they were feeling awfully alone now and mighty scared because there were more and more of these flying elephants in the air. The swooping insects were getting closer and closer, and the two boys were getting banged by these antennas, and they hurt really bad. And Steggy looked at Trixie and said, I don't think this can get any worse. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 the ground started shaking. And Trixie said, oh, guess it can get worse. And Trixie said, no, that's good. That's my dad coming. Nobody makes a sound like that. When the dad came, the two boys hid right underneath his giant legs, and as he swatted at these flying insects, trying to keep them away. And then one landed right in front of him, and it started to walk toward the boys. And he stomped on him with his big foot. Just then, Steggy's dad came and said, hey, you don't have to do that. I know what's going on here. But he didn't continue because just then back came Q, and he came with Terry. You might not remember who Terry is, but Terry is a pterodactyl friend of Q's. And together the two of them were bombing at these flying giant insects and whacking off their wings, making them fall down. As they fell down to the ground, they all grouped together. They grouped together toward the mound that had the honey and right on the top of it. And Sticky's dad said, look, you know what's going on here? These guys are just wild about the honey and those leaves. Those leaves are special leaves. What leaves are you talking about, Dad? Steggy said. And his dad said, it's those big leaves that just blew over and stuck to the honey. Didn't you see that? Those are leaves that these ants must not know about, but they love the smell. I tell you what, you, Mr. Tyrannosaurus, you keep the boys safe, and Cherry and Q, you guys keep those flying ants away. They're not bad. They're just a little crazy because they're so hungry for what they think is awesomely good food. And he went to the forest, and with his big tail, with the spikes on it, he whacked down some trees, and he pulled the leaves over, and he put them right in a pile with the honey. The last flying insects and ants flew right straight to the honey and to the leaves, and a whole army of these ants came marching along right to the same spot. And none of them paid any attention to Trixie and Steggy or to anybody else. All they did was gather there and chomp, chomp, chomp. The dinosaurs just stood and stared at all this chomping and eating where the ants or the insects, they just guzzled and gobbled everything nearby. And the two moms, Trixie's mom and Steggy's mom, came up and they looked too, and they were just amazed. They shook their heads, and Steggy's mom said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing, Steggy. It's a good idea that you don't ever spill soup again." And that's the end of part 2 of the Spilled Soup.